Jannik Sinner's striking confession about Carlos Alcaraz: "He's too good for me." The Italian tennis player has talked about the hobbies that entertain him in Cincinnati after his resounding victory in less than an hour over Daniel Galan. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are the two best tennis players in the world and are destined to dominate the future of this sport as the leaders of the new generation. The Italian and the player from Murcia have split the last Grand Slam titles and have already starred in historic matches that have helped build a great rivalry. This clash can be extrapolated to other areas of life, such as one of their favorite hobbies that they both share: golf. Jannik Sinner is a great enthusiast. In fact, in an interview with Tennis Channel, the Italian revealed that he likes to make the most of his free time in Cincinnati to practice this sport. "It's the best place to play golf. In Cincinnati, there's not much to do, so we're actually lucky that the golf course is there." However, despite sharing this hobby with Carlos Alcaraz, the native of San Candido is not willing to face the player from Murcia. "Carlos is too good for me. He's better with my team." Therefore, Jannik Sinner prefers to have fun with his team rather than risk the possibility of being defeated by Alcaraz, a demonstration of the competitiveness with which both perceive their relationship. Ultimately, although the player from El Palmar has also shown a great love for golf and has even shared various moments practicing this sport on his social media, we will have to wait until the final rounds of the big tennis tournaments to see these two young talents face each other again. The ATP circuit boss explodes against Carlos Alcaraz and Sinner. The absence of the two best tennis players in the world left a void that not even the brand new champion, Ben Shelton, could completely fill. Today I will tell you what really happened behind this controversy, why the calendar is under the spotlight, and what it all means for the future of tennis. The professional tennis season is an endless marathon. Players go from clay to grass, and then to hard courts, with barely days to adapt. This year, Wimbledon ended and, in just 2 weeks, the Canadian Masters 1000 arrived. For many, that gap is insufficient, and for Sinner and Alcaraz, who came from exhausting duels, it meant stopping. Physical and mental wear and tear is no myth. Every point played at this level wears you down like small boxing matches. At Roland Garros, Alcaraz beat Sinner in an epic match, but at Wimbledon the story was reversed. Sinner took the final in 4 sets, a victory he celebrated as sweet revenge. However, the victory came at a cost. Both players were carrying physical discomfort and fatigue. The idea of jumping straight into such a demanding tournament as Canada seemed unsustainable. So, as painful as it was, they chose to withdraw from the tournament and prioritize their recovery. Carl Hale, the director of the Canadian tournament, did not hide his frustration. For him, seeing his biggest attractions erased from the list was like removing the stars from a movie poster on opening day. Hale understands the need for rest, but he believes that great players also have a responsibility to the tour and to the fans who pay for tickets to see them. In his statements on the Nothing Major podcast, Hale made it clear that he is in talks with both to guarantee their presence next year. His main argument: in 2026, the calendar will be adjusted and there will be 3 weeks between Wimbledon and Canada. That would allow for a more reasonable rest, avoiding a repeat of this situation. The Canadian public, meanwhile, had to settle for an equally competitive tournament, but with a different flavor. The final was won by Ben Shelton, a young American promise who took advantage of the opportunity to shine. Although his victory was exciting, many felt that it lacked the extra ingredient that Alcaraz and Sinner bring. For fans, the situation sparked an eternal debate: should players prioritize their health and longevity, or fulfill the commitment to play all the big events? The answer is not simple, because elite tennis is both a sport and a show, and both sides must be carefully balanced. In Cincinnati, the return of Sinner and Alcaraz once again raised expectations. The Italian debuted by crushing Daniel Galan with a double 6-1, as if wanting to make it clear that the rest had been worth it. Alcaraz, for his part, was preparing to face Bosnian Damir Djumhur, eager to return to action. This comeback rekindled the debate about whether Canada really missed a unique opportunity. The underlying problem is structural. The ATP designs its calendar to maximize revenue, visibility, and competitiveness, but sometimes forgets that players are human, not machines. A couple of weeks can make the difference between a vibrant spectacle and a parade of injuries. The extension of the gap between Wimbledon and Canada planned for 2026 aims precisely to mitigate this risk. Meanwhile, Hale's words can be interpreted as a wake-up call to all the tour's top players. It's not just a marketing issue. For tournaments, the presence of figures like Sinner and Alcaraz is essential for ticket sales, sponsors, and television broadcasting. Without them, interest drops, and with it, the event's economy. On the other hand, Sinner and Alcaraz must also manage their careers as a limited resource. An overcrowded calendar could shorten their time at the top, and both have their eyes on Grand Slam titles and on staying healthy to remain in the elite for years. The balance between caring for the body and fulfilling commercial commitments is fragile. Fans, although sometimes disappointed, usually understand. The show is better when the stars are at their best, and a strategic rest can ensure memorable matches later on. However, for organizers, every absence of a star is a battle lost in the fight for the public. In short, this episode has shown that modern tennis is not only played with a racket in hand, but also in offices, with decisions that affect both the player's health and the appeal of the tournaments. The ATP calendar is like a puzzle where each misplaced piece can change the whole picture. In Cincinnati, the thermometer has decided to show no mercy. Players face temperatures close to 40 degrees, a scenario that forces them to adjust their strategies and measure every effort. For many, the scorching heat is a hard barrier to overcome, but for Carlos Alcaraz, who grew up in Murcia, this is almost familiar territory. In his homeland, summer also turns the air into fire, and that habit seems to give him an edge. After defeating Serbian Hamad Medjedovic in the second round, Carlitos made it clear that the conditions do not scare him. "I'm from Murcia and it's very hot there, so I'm used to it and I try not to let it affect me much," he said with a smile. This confidence is not just a matter of attitude, but also a physical and mental experience. He knows that in these conditions, tennis becomes as much a battle of endurance as of technique. One of the secrets of his game in extreme climates is to simplify. As he explained, on days like this he focuses more on the serve, because long rallies can quickly drain energy. However, when he detects that his opponent is suffering, he changes gears. "I try to make the point even longer." It's a kind of psychological game, where the heat becomes not a difficulty but a tool to wear down the opponent. In his match against Medjedovic, Alcaraz showed a much sharper serve than in his debut. "I served better than in the first match. I feel better and every day I'm feeling the ball much better," he said. This progression is key, because in short tournaments, each round serves to fine-tune sensations and adjust the game plan. Medjedovic, known for his power, could not impose his style against an Alcaraz who moved him side to side without rest. The tactic was clear: make him run, wear him out, and take advantage of any sign of fatigue. And with the heat as an ally, that strategy becomes even more effective. Beyond the result, the match was proof that Carlos not only adapts to the conditions, but knows how to turn them into an advantage. It's a mindset that few players manage to master, and one that could make the difference in his preparation for the US Open. Now, Alcaraz's next challenge in Cincinnati will be the Italian Luca Nardi, a young player, talented and unafraid of long rallies. For Carlitos, this match will be an opportunity to continue testing how the heat can play in his favor, especially if he manages to take the match into physical territory. Managing the heat in tournaments like this goes beyond physical condition. It includes constant hydration, breathing control, strategic breaks, and a firm mental focus. Alcaraz, used to training in the Murcian heat, has that habit ingrained in his routine, giving him an advantage over less accustomed rivals. The psychological factor is also decisive. When a player suffers from the heat, his body language gives him away: slower steps, heavy breathing, signs of discomfort. Alcaraz is alert to these signals, and when he spots them, he increases the pressure to force the opponent into errors. It's a chess game under the blazing sun. In addition, this tournament serves as a dress rehearsal for the US Open, where temperatures and humidity can also be relentless. Every match in Cincinnati is a chance to test his endurance, his precision, and his ability to stay calm under extreme conditions. His attitude, a mix of naturalness and competitiveness, also connects with the public. It's not just that he wins, but how he does it, with a smile, acknowledging the harshness of the climate, but without excuses. That freshness is part of his personal trademark and makes him one of the tour's favorites. If he manages to advance through the rounds, he will not only gain confidence and competitive rhythm, but he will arrive in New York with the certainty that he can perform at his best even when the heat seems unbearable. And in a sport where the margins are so small, that detail could be the key to lifting another Grand Slam. The heat in Cincinnati has been a silent protagonist in this tournament, but for Carlos Alcaraz it's almost an old friend. His Murcian origins, his physical preparation, and his combative mindset have allowed him not only to endure it, but to use it as a weapon. With each match, he shows that adaptability is one of his great strengths. The duel against Luca Nardi will be another chapter in this story, and each victory under these conditions brings him one step closer to a US Open where heat could once again be part of the script. The ATP Masters 1000 in Cincinnati is becoming a mousetrap where many players are falling. Medical timeouts and retirements follow one another, with players suffering temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius, and a heat index over 40. An oven. Also, there is not much time to return the ball, it comes back immediately. It flies in a tournament with very fast conditions. And with many incidents as well. There was a power outage for an hour on Monday, the LED advertising boards on the center court broke down, and the fire alarm went off uncontrollably during Jannik Sinner's match. And the rain came back, in the form of a storm. A downpour. Just as the moment was approaching for Carlos Alcaraz to step onto the center court to play his third-round match against Serbian Hamad Medjedovic. Everything is running late because American Riley Opelka and Argentine Francisco Comesaña are playing a marathon match. After 2 hours 51, just after the American had held match point, play was suspended due to rain, with the score at 7-6, 4, 4-6, 5-4 and 40-40 with the South American serving. The organization's first estimate was that there would be no tennis before 8:30 p.m. Spanish Peninsular Time, 2:30 p.m. local time. They pulled out all the stops to delay it only by minutes. At 8:40 p.m., tennis returned to the center court, under a bright sun once again. A typical violent summer storm, intense but short-lived. A tense wait for Alcaraz, who had never before faced Medjedovic, 22 years old and world number 72. A place in the round of 16 is at stake. First, Opelka and Comesaña have to decide their clash, already in the final stretch. Around 9 p.m., it should be Alcaraz's turn.